little bit of technical difficulty this afternoon, Sal, but I think we're through it. Sorry to keep everybody waiting. It seems like Zohran Mamdani's policies, decision-making, or whatever, it's disastrous and it's snowballing. How are you, Sal?
I'm good, Jason. I'm good. I can't wait till someday we get do the walk and talks where we won't have any more technical glitches. But I will.
Who says that?
Yeah, well, you never know because you might be in a Wi-Fi area. But to sum up this as quickly as I can, the other day we saw what happened in Washington Square Park.
Can I, before you get into it, I have an important question for you because I think a lot of people see that, and even the mayor, he's like, "Oh, it's a snowball fight." Now, there was some, boo-hoo naysayer type people who I saw posted a video from 2018, which was a bunch of little kids, like maybe 10 or 8 years old, with their parents and everything, having a snowball fight with NYPD. And they were like, "Oh, what's the big deal?" And I said, "Well, wait a second now. Because when I saw, and I want your input as a former NYPD officer, because I think a lot of people don't get this, and this is my presumption. I want to see if if you can verify. But what we saw there in Washington Square Park, it looked to me like a bunch of potentially dangerous, if they wanted to be, young adults who were basically swarming the cops and could have at any moment decided to escalate the so-called snowball fight into an actual dangerous assault. Isn't that true?
Well, I actually broke this down on my show, but I know exactly what you're saying. So the first video you saw was that one that you saw. I don't know if it was many years ago or the same day. I don't know. The CNN showed it like they were saying it was the same day. So that video that you saw of the young kids, Snowball with the cop was something playful.
Right.
The night prior, while this storm was going on, there's video of the 19th precinct cops throwing snowballs at each other. They get out of the car, they start throwing, this is unprofessional stuff. You got to be careful because the public is going to look at you a certain way. But then we have the actual incident. So this is what happened. The cops were called to a disorderly group because this thing got out of control. First of all, community affairs, which I know you have a problem with, was not there because they were dealing with all the elderlies in the neighborhood that were calling in. They need help, they need heat, so that's why they weren't able to, and it was not easy to get around. So they were already trapped with that other stuff. So they were all called to the scene. It comes over as a disorderly group. Obviously, I also revealed things that nobody knew prior to me putting it out. First of all, the duty captain came. The duty captain is Captain Ashford. The commanding officer of the 6th Precinct, Deputy Inspector, what is his name, Minor, he wasn't there. He wasn't there that day. I don't know what. He just wasn't there. So the Deputy Chief of Manhattan South, I know you've seen him with his bullhorn out there, Chief Budette, he was there. He was the highest ranking officer on the scene. He was a 1-star. They had called what's a level 1. Why they call it a level 1, Jason? So a level 1 is when you mobilize all the precincts surrounding you and SRG. Remember SRG, they're in the news always because Mamdani wants to get rid of them. But SRG does the mass arrest, disorder control. That means they all respond to a level 1. What had happened is the level 1 was called, and as quickly as it was put over the radio, it was called off. The persons that called this off was not this chief. This chief did not have a say in this. This came from the highest of highs. Has to be a 2-star chief or above, or maybe even someone who's just a civilian in the NYPD. This was an NYPD created problem, Jason. It came from the very top. And why, you ask? The 6th Precinct, Jason, has a crime problem, but they are telling you that the 6th Precinct crime is down. So, Jason, they can't take felony assaults because if you look at the CompStat numbers, they're starting to go up. And remember the perception narrative, the perception management.
Crime statistics?
6th Precinct. You go on NYPD, I think it's .org or with the NYPD website, you look at CompStat and you can look at the 6th Precinct numbers. Their assaults, it's up. So they're not inclined to want to take 3 or 4 felony assaults because these people were not throwing snowballs. They were throwing ice. But before that, Jason, you're asking the people on the scene and the NYPD leadership to go into the lion's den with a bunch of lions, and you're not allowed to tame these lions. You're also outnumbered. You're outnumbered by a healthy margin, which is why you need a level 1. So you sent cops to get hurt, all in the name of what? Optics? And then pull back and say, you're going to get hit in the face, but you can't arrest anyone, which is what you saw.
Yeah.
So Mamdani has no idea about any of this, and I'm not trying to give him defense, but he has no communication with the soccer mom, who's the police commissioner. And her answer came well after the fact at 9 o'clock at night, after she saw my post, after she saw someone else I know post about it. She all of a sudden answers and says, oh, we're investigating this. So, Jason, after the fact of when you should have made arrests, you start saying, I'm investigating people. And I put this out 2 hours before the wanted poster was out. I said, there's a wanted poster for these people. And now, after everything you know, how does this look? Because the people were behind you for about one day, and then they saw the wanted poster, and people started saying, are you kidding me? Wanted for throwing snowballs? Now, obviously, this case was going to get thrown out, Jason, because you are now putting up wanted posters for snowball fights 2 or 3 days, 2 days after the fact, whereas you should have arrested these people. It was the whole scene is induced by the New York City Police Department leadership. They are authorized to make arrests on the scene for that, and they were ordered not to. This is the story. It's not Mamdani. It's not the fact that Bragg doesn't make the declines to prosecute. They should have been arrested on the scene. You don't know anything other than that. Why did they not do it? Now, Mamdani's response, Jason, granted, you're right. It was tone deaf. But he also is a rookie. Jason, he did 4 years in the state assembly, barely showing up to work. He never passed any bills. He's never governed, Jason. I've mentioned this over and over again. They voted for him anyway. So these are the growing pains of a novice politician who now has seen the president more times than Eric Adams did when he was the mayor, which is very funny. Isn't that odd? But
yeah.
These are the things that people need to keep in mind. So, yes, I don't like Mamdani's response. It's a little tone deaf. Also, doesn't back his police officers right away because he just doesn't know what he's doing, Jason. That's just the bottom line. But the police department botched this from the beginning, and now they reacted to the social media frenzy that showed the police officers getting pelted with snow and ice and going to the hospital, and now say, oh, we're going to prosecute these people because the backlash came. Because all they were trying to do, Jason, is perception management, controlling the narrative. Crime is down. Do not take felonies. And by the way, Jason, what did they charge this guy with? Because it wasn't a felony assault. It was harassment and OGA, obstruction of governmental. That's BS, Jason. Of course, those charges are going to get dismissed.
Right.
They don't have a felony because they didn't arrest the guy on the scene, Jason. This is the problem.
That change the nature of the crime if they don't arrest him on the scene?
On the scene, you could say this is a felony. The officer is going to go to the hospital. You wait days afterwards because of the backlash, and that's what the attorneys in the DA's office, whether you like them or not, that is what they're looking at. You're only arresting these people because the public at one point was behind you and had the backlash of saying, why are these people arrested? But then you wait 2 days, you put a wanted poster, and it looks very suspect. So now they're saying, oh, but you were throwing snowballs the night before, and now you want to say, why are you going into that and you're not having extra cops come in there with you? Because, see, people know you can't fool. You can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. So when you ask basically the zookeepers to go into the lion's den and you're not allowed to tame the lions and they're going to swipe their huge paws at you and take chunks of flesh, what are you left to do? Because that's what they asked and did to those officers. It's really a failure on the leadership of the New York City Police Department. Yet people are still throwing their anger behind the attorney, the district attorney, who really 4 days later got this, when it should have been right away anyway, because you should have arrested him on the scene. But they won't charge felonies, which they didn't again here, Jason. That's the best part of the story. It is exactly what I'm saying. And yet there's still people running with these crazy narratives. But that's why America's great, Jason. It's a free country.
So you're saying they don't want to charge felonies because that has a negative impact on this comp stat thing, which is just what? So in other words, if they don't charge the felonies, then they can say, oh, look at the records, crime is down.
Correct.
Even though there's crimes happening.
You see these felony assaults. Obviously, if they're up, there would be substantially more because there was numerous felony assaults that day. You can't say disorderly conduct when somebody threw a ball of ice in your eye and you're cut, or throws ice down your back, or throws ice at another officer's head. There were numerous officers hit. It wasn't just one. It was a poor response by the union, too. They wait forever because they know what I'm saying. That's what happened. They were told to stand down. So you're asking cops to get in a lion's den and take a beating from lions and sit there and go, oh, well, we're just going to go to the hospital and then we'll blame everybody if anyone says anything. That's what the leadership did. That's the problem, Jason. It's not the district attorney's office. If you go into this, Jason, and they say you see anyone do anything to you, you arrest them. And troops are coming, meaning the level 1 is mobilized, SRG's coming, all the precinct
Swarm
cops,
the park.
They're going to swarm the place, and it's going to be over in less than 10 minutes. Nope. That's the order from above, Jason. Who gave that order is the person that should be named in future lawsuits as well.
And isn't it also extremely dangerous, Sal? Because, first of all, thank you. That's incredible detail. And that really makes me feel like the whole thing is much more serious than even I realized. But I just got this sense. I was reminded of that scene in RoboCop where he's in the warehouse and they're all... I mean, that was a scary scene when I saw that movie as a kid. But you realize cops, you're just people. And if there's 20 or 30, angry mob people crowding two cops... How many, first of all, they're reluctant to shoot anybody. And second of all, you can't do that. And even if you did start shooting, you're going to grab the gun and you're going to get killed. It can really escalate into a dangerous situation. So, I don't know. The 6th Precinct is a mess because I've been assaulted in that park and they will do nothing.
This is perfect for you, Jason. You have been to this park. I don't know how
That's
many
where
times.
that kid hit me with the Bluetooth low energy thing, and Mottola was laughing. That's 6th Precinct. That guy in the suit is 6th Precinct.
They are, and there's all kinds of allegations of fudging crime stats there. That is one of the main hubs. And again, this entire incident was to control this narrative, perception management. Crime is down. They can't take felonies, which they didn't charge here either, Jason, yet it is a felony. Why? A cop goes to the hospital is just OGA? That's what it is? OGA and harassment? Well, again, that's why. And the attorneys turn it down because they know that you're just trying to make a spectacle out of being embarrassed, that you threw your cops to the lion's den, and your answer was, yeah, well, we were trying to get away with this, and we got caught, and this is our reaction.
So that's you bring up an interesting point. These NYPD attorneys, there have been times that I've tried to get people prosecuted for stuff, and I even had a meeting with some detectives that went on for a while, and they took all kinds of notes, and then they went and spoke to somebody and came back with this woman who was from the legal department who spent a lot of time and energy explaining to me why they weren't going to do anything. And so she's a lawyer. And by the way, every single time anybody goes into court, both lawyers think they're going to win, and one of them is always wrong. So how does that work with the NYPD lawyers and how they decide?
You are a victim of the spin. They're going to try to give you the spin to justify the illegal action of not doing anything for you. They're supposed to be serving you. Instead, they're just serving the narrative, the perception management. Many people actually think the job is not real, folks. You go to work and you go and do a job. You're doing a service. The minute you start thinking this is real and you're going to be some wizard on top of a mountain, which a lot of these people think, I know this culture, you're not. And that's why they don't like me. Some of these, we'll call them Joe Cops, who then graduated the hairbag lately. And this is what you deal with. They don't like that one of their own, which is me, which I never put my hand up and swore to an omerta, Jason. I swore to the Constitution. If I see bad behavior from anyone in the police department, the federal department, any public servant, public official, that is my duty to point this out. And I know this culture. And that's why I pointed some people don't like it. When people say, oh, this guy, Michael Gerber, he's a real winner too. He's Mr. Wonderful.
He's the head of the legal department.
Yeah, he's a Mr. Wonderful. I'll just tell you that. But when they tell you, oh, Sal, you're putting people's business out there, this is public knowledge and public information. The New York Post can do exactly what I did. Yet the Joe Cops, who are now hairbags, are saying, well, you put that information out there, Sal. But if the New York Post does, you know what they'll say? Oh, that cop should have known better. So they're trying to make value judgments.
This is not some private company or somebody's marriage. Nope. It's the NYPD. The public has a right to know what the hell is going on, particularly when it's failing. You
know why, Jason? They don't want any accountability. See, these Joe Cops, and this is what I said on my show. If you were on the job in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, 2000, 2010, 2020, up until now, and you're telling me this always used to happen, blah, 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 you're part of the problem because you did nothing. You were afraid that if you spoke, this Joe Cop that I'm telling you that has a problem with anybody, they complain all day, Jason, Joe Cops. They're in the locker room screaming about things. And the minute someone does anything to try to hold anyone accountable, they do everything to protect the system. The worst of the worst. The biggest problem is Joe Cop is like 101A. Oh, we need to do this. And then they turn around and go, well, no, that's my friend. What are you talking about? You'll ruin him. But he committed a crime. Oh, what crime? What are you talking about? So, and then when you're in trouble, they're the first to say, you're on your own, pal. We told you so. 2 weeks ago, they were telling you to break the law. Now, 2 weeks later, they're saying you're on your own after something goes wrong. So these guys are hypocrites. They're keyboard gangsters. They're the worst of the worst. I mean, the job should get rid of these people. They're miserabili, we say in Italian. And it is ridiculous. And they're really just a low information person in a uniform. We just call them Joe Cop. When they get worse, Jason, hairbag, which is the worst of the worst, the lowest form of human being.
Where does villainous Muppet fit in?
He's the villainous Muppet. He just pulled down some. He covers things. I don't know what he's doing. He posts things and then he takes them down. I don't know, but he seems to want to mean well, and I don't know. He gets mixed up in too many different things. But when you talk about social engineering, Jason, this entire thing was socially engineered by the NYPD leadership, just so you know.
Yeah. Now, Sal, we got a little bit of a late start, so we're going to continue the conversation on the sponsor-exclusive segment. For people who have not yet sponsored you on Substack, they can do that. They can go over to thesalgreco.substack.com. It's a great way to support Sal and to get some more in-depth information, on what Sal is covering all week. He's got a ton of information on there, a lot of free posts, a lot of posts for subscribers only. So check out thesalgreco.substack.com. We're also, of course, going to be on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com and on subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. People should also visit Sal's webpage, salgreco.com. You can read more about him there. You can tap on the support tab and send Sal some money. It's very difficult to earn a living as an independent journalist, particularly when you're covering the kind of stuff that we like to cover, which is not necessarily brought to you by your friendly neighborhood sponsors. So you, the individual viewer sponsor, are the only ones sponsoring this content. We'll be